Good afternoon to the Waymores. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hey,
Hi, thanks for having us.
So excited to have the opportunity to talk to you today, and I want to take a moment to introduce our future audience to you.
Okay.
This is Kira and Willie, artistically known as the Waymores. They have a new album called Stone Sessions coming out on April 8th. And I just thank you so much for taking the time today to tell us a little bit about your release. And I see the guitar there, so I'm thinking maybe a little bit of singing and playing too. So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Thanks for having us. We're happy to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I thought maybe we could start by, maybe you could tell us how the two of you met and came together to do this recording, to form this duo.
Sure. It's a funny story, actually. Actually, it's not very funny at all. When I moved back to Marietta from Nashville, I wound up becoming part of this big country ensemble called the No Count Palookas, and they had a residency in a couple of gigs around town. They were called the No Count Palookas. Did I already say that?
Yeah.
And it was an opera style thing. I would play upright bass on some stuff and then sing some stuff, play guitar on some stuff. But Kira came on as the female vocal in the No Count Palookas, and that's where we met. And that was almost 14 years ago. But it's only been about the last 5 or 6 years that we've been the Waymores. 6 or 7 years that we've been the Waymores together.
Longer.
So we didn't.
The time goes
we
by
didn't jump
fast.
right into a music. We didn't jump right into a music career together. We were smarter than that. We decided to wait and see if we were going to make it before.
Well, Willie already had a long career before the No Count Palookas brought us together. And I think that same year that we started dating, he had just put out an album and was touring 200 days a year for that album, which is the only reason we made it through that first year.
Yeah.
So we spent, just here and there, people would kind of come and go from the ensemble, and we would get to do some shows together, and some shows I wouldn't be there or he wouldn't be there. And then that all kind of dissipated, and I started my own band, and he continued with his full band. And one day we were talking and we realized we were the only ones that were coming home from tours broke.
Yeah.
And all of our players were getting paid. So we decided to just do the Waymores as like an around town kind of thing to kind of help us get some, bills paid and the rent,
And we never, we intended it just to be, a local thing.
Mhm.
And we couldn't oversaturate our names with doing acoustic stuff around town. It's like, I got a career, you got a career. I don't want to oversaturate my name. So we started calling it the Waymores. But then it got traction and got legs of its own and turned into its. We made a video for a cover of John Prine's song, In Spite of Ourselves, that we did. We did a little video for it, and a little documentary was made about us doing it. And the next thing we know, we're getting requests from all over the country to come play. And this is before we even had this before we even had an album made, right?
Yeah.
And so we're touring, we start touring without even an album being made. We, all the way out in Arizona, and then we're up to, spend a lot of time in Texas, and then we're up in Philadelphia, and it was crazy. I mean, it just kind of happened organically, and we love it.
That's
just 2 guitars, 2 vocals, only 2 people to pay.
It's wonderful how it takes sometimes just one song or one moment. That's why every song that you ever compose or you ever perform or everything you do, you never know what it's going to be that's going to just connect with people. And every moment's exciting because you just never know. Look at all of that success from one song and one video as a cover, and it gave you the chance to then use your artistic performing, your songwriting, the two of you to songwrite and let people hear what you've done.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's and that's what our life is, when we're the happiest is when we're traveling around, going down the highway, going to a new town every night, playing music. That's when life is the most blissful for us.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're at home, I think I read in a little bit about your lives that it's nice to get on the road, like you said, because at home after a while, it's just like being at home all the time. It's like, we got to get out. We get along better on the road, right?
We do get along, but I mean, we get along at home, but
Sure. Oh, sure.
It's most people would think that road life is hardest, and being home is easy, but it's backwards for us.
Yeah.
You know, not that we don't love our family, but
Of course.
we're just conditioned to be moving all the time, and it's hard to sit still for me, especially hard for me. And you know, but we make it both work. We find a happy medium.
What maybe you could tell us a little bit about your individual upbringings that led you to a life of writing, recording, and being on the road, something that as you were, you know, going through your life.
Let you start this.
Oh wow.
Yours is longer.
You know, throughout my life, I kind of grew up. My mother was a little troubled in the head. You know, she had great taste in music and bad taste in men, and my dad wasn't around a whole lot. So all I ever heard growing up was Elvis Presley and Hank Williams. That was all my mother ever played. You know, of course, she would, you know, listen to a lot of the other country stuff, but I just grew up, you know, with music. My mother's love for music being the real only thing that stuck with me through my childhood. The times I got to be around her, I think it was just a natural transition for that to eventually for me to start playing music, you know. And I play country music because when I make music, it comes out country. You know, I don't, you know, it's not like, hey, I'm going to be a country artist. It just kind of, you know, I started out young and angry and it was a lot of punk rock stuff. And then it just kind of morphed its way down into country. You know, it's just a natural transition. I see a lot of my peers that go through that same thing. They started out young and angry, and I'm just too old to be that angry anymore. So, but I think it was something I've had a lot of other artistic outlets. I'm an illustrator as well, and you know I do some other things. But the only thing that ever felt like an artistic release for me was writing a song and performing that song. You know, no drawing or painting that I ever did gave me any kind of closure on any kind of emotion or turmoil I was going through. The only artistic endeavor for me that ever did that was singing and playing. So I think it was just a matter of time before it came out of me.
Mine was not really like a childhood thing that started me in music. It was Willie. I already had a child and was already a grown up. And I saw Willie in a dive bar one night playing honky tonk music. He was playing Junior Brown, Hung It Up.
Yeah.
Was the song, the first song that I ever heard him play. And I just fell in love with everything on that stage.
How could you not?
I was immediately in love with him and the music. And I had never heard music like that before. And
this is around the same time that the No Count Palookas.
Yeah, so I had like sung with my brother's band and done some of that stuff. My brother is like insanely talented at music. But I never picked up a guitar and tried to play it or anything until I met Willie. And I loved,
I remember when she came on as just a singer, and you know, she
just a singer.
Well, yeah, that's she wasn't a songwriter. She didn't write. She just sang, and but she didn't song. She would come, and like, overnight, it seemed like she learned like 3 chords on the guitar like overnight and came with a song that was called
We Had Nothing.
We Had Nothing. And it was a really good tune. And,
so dramatic.
But we wound up even working it up with the No Count Palookas. But you know, it was like overnight she could play guitar and start writing a song. And I was kind of in a lull with my songwriting at the time. And she'd come to me and go, I wrote another song. You want to hear it? And I go, sure. I was like, hey, that's great. You should try doing this. And she'd come to me with like, man, I wrote another song. You want to hear it? I go, sure. And they're always so good. I was like, damn, no, I don't want to hear another one of your damn terrific songs. I haven't written a song in a year and I want you to stop. But I would do stuff to her. I was like, hey, that's great. Now go try to write a song with only 2 chords in it. Yeah. And she was like, okay, I'd give her these little challenges, you know, like, hey, go try to do a song where it does this. And she'd come back every time with one knocking it out of the park. So it was natural for her. I was just a spark that, you know, that started that fire. And I feel fortunate for that. It's really makes me feel good every time she writes something really great. I'm like, I helped that. I helped start that. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. That's pretty much it. I just changed the whole trajectory of my life to play music and to be a part of that. It was just the strongest pull from the universe that I've ever felt was that's what you're supposed to be doing. That's what you need to be doing. And
absolutely, yeah.
And there were so many challenges, especially in our, like the first few years of our relationship. It was really like a lot of turmoil, and but there was never a moment that that pull wasn't still there. So I just trusted it, knew it, and happy that I did.
Yeah, when we're performing, I know that's like, this is why I'm here. This is my reason to be on the planet, is to do this. No drawing that I ever did or anything ever gave me that. I still love to draw, but it doesn't fulfill me like music does.
I can't draw.
Yeah. Because music's a very powerful thing. It is our religion. The right song, the right time can incite a riot. The right song at the right time can make you fall in love. It's powerful stuff.
It's Junior Brown's hung it up, apparently.
So I know without a doubt, and now I feel very fortunate that Kira and I have the Waymores, because even though I knew had this feeling before with my solo career, I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Every time I stood on stage, I was like, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. But still, there was something that was missing. I didn't know what. And now I know, what it is. I have half of me was missing when I was doing this. Now, it's just so natural what we do. And we were talking about the songwriting element of it earlier. I always prided myself on being, this antenna that received these great songs. But, and I would write a song and be like, there's no way I wrote that. That is, I didn't write that. I'm an antenna. I just received that song. But that antenna had been not getting a signal for several years, and it was killing me not to be able to put music out. And then Kira and I started writing. I never thought I could never write with people before, because just didn't happen. Just wasn't organic. I couldn't force it. But when Kira and I started doing it together, man, my antenna, my signal, I got, I had cable, baby. I was receiving all the signals, it felt good. So now when we play, it's that complete feeling. I didn't realize I was, how much of part of me was missing until we started doing it together like this. And I enjoy doing it with the full band as well. It's fun, but my favorite way to do it is just her and I on the stage, 2 guitars. It's limitless what we could do. If there's a song she knows, I know it, vice versa. Even if we've never played it, we complete each other. That's very lame.
You complete me too, baby.
So
pretty much I got Willie Cable, and now we're here.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I mean, you both put it so eloquently. I talked to so many different musicians, and I myself in my life, a musician, not out there living the dream. I live it from the outside, different ways that I but I do songwrite. But the both of you put it so eloquently. It's inspirational, because it's to find that place where you just know you're doing the right thing. And like you said, it can be a very challenging, and challenges in our own lives and challenges just on the road, all of that. And the days when you say, wow, we're trying to make ends meet, and we're doing all of this touring and performing, the early days too, especially, when, both trying to do your own music. But it's so inspirational to hear you talk about how it just came together, and the songwriting that both of you, how you both kind of finish each other's songwriting sentences, I'm sure many times too. And in the way that you write things.
A long time ago, when I first got I was playing around with several other bands along, down in the Panhandle, Pensacola area in Florida. And I played upright bass, so I was always a hired gun for other people. And I decided I was going to start doing my own thing. And I was married at the time, had a high paying job, and wound up starting my own thing, and wound up getting a record deal. At the same time, I was going through a divorce. If that's not country, I'll kiss a good man's ass. But no matter, divorce is a terrible thing. It's almost harder to deal with than death sometimes, And I just couldn't fathom everything that was going on. I'm getting divorced, and I'm getting a record deal at the same time. Part of my life is ending, and another part of it's beginning. And this voice would come in my head that just said, keep playing music, everything will be okay. Keep playing music, everything will be okay. That was the only thing that got me through. It was like all the times, the heartache is too much, the financial strain is too much, I've got a daughter that, I'm not seeing enough. I've got all these things. That voice, just keep playing music and everything will be okay. Just that's like a drill instructor in my ear, in my head, just would say that on, and I never stopped. I never stopped. And now, the reward, everything was fine. You know, everything did work out, everything. And so many times I wanted to give up, but I would listen to that voice. You're not going to stop playing music. Do not stop. You know, keep touring, keep playing, keep touring. And it led me to this life now. So I tend to be a firm believer and listen to the music.
I'm glad that that voice persisted, and I'm sure there's a lot of music fans out there. And Kira also, of course, very happy that he kept listening to that voice, because it brought the two of you
Me
to keep
too.
making this great music together. And just I want to go back to something you said before about how a song could bring you to war, or could bring you to, pull you in love, and it's so true how one song, one lyric can make the
Yeah.
difference. And I'm sure that being on the road now, when you interact with fans, your growing fan base of people that are really coming to know your music, to hear it from them, how you may have changed their life with one lyric, if not a full song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, because I know it's happened to us, that, there's been a song that's just, we always call it, took the pistol out of my mouth. It's like when you just feel like you can't live, it's like that song pulled the gun out of my mouth, pulled the barrel out of my mouth.
Yeah.
We have that little saying, even though there's some music out there that makes you want to put the barrel in your mouth. The more relevant part is the songs that make you pull the barrel out.
Our goal is to write,
songs
that'll keep the pistol out.
Because we have definitely, that's another thing about the power of music, right? And how it's like a religion. I mean, I'm not knocking religion at all by any means. I believe in God, I believe in all that stuff, but it's like, when was the last time you were at the end of your rope? There seemed to be no hope. Everything was done. That in this day and age, I can't tell you one time I cracked open the Bible and read a psalm or something that pulled the barrel out of my mouth. But I can tell you the times I couldn't do it anymore. And Hank Williams sang "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry." And I thought, man, he had it a lot worse than I did. Back down.
Yeah.
So that's why it's my religion. Music has saved my life, and music has lifted me up like it does with religion with some people.
That's great.
Powerful.
That's great. That's great.
Another element of this, not to hog the microphone here, another thing about music that people don't, get is that the two halves of it, man. There's the beat, the beat, but the drums and the bass, right? Then that appeals to the primitive side of the brain. That's why, they beat drums when they're marching into war and stuff like that, right? But then, so that's like the primitive side of your brain that drives. Is why the bass makes you shake your ass and the drums make you beat. But then, like the lyrics and the solos with the guitar or steel or whatever it be, that appeals to the intellectual side. So you've got this, it takes the combination of both of those things at the right time can make a brute an artist, or, it's just incredible what it does. I don't think people break down both elements of it like that when they listen to music. It's like, the beat is so great. This makes me move. It motivates me, makes me get up, makes me move around. But then there's the intellectual side of it that appeals to the other side of the brain with the melody and the vocals, It's very, very
I think
cool.
a lot of art comes from mixing those two almost inappropriately too, where you have this beat that does make you want to shake your ass or something like that, but then you actually get to listen to the lyrics, and they're more profound than they should be for the beat that you put behind. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
So, I think Merle Haggard did it a lot.
Yeah.
Dwight Yoakam did it a lot.
It's that whole kind of mindset when you think about the samurai, how they would go into battle, these brutal hand-to-hand combat battles, and they would come home and write poetry and paint. It's almost, your brain has that going on. Music, it can, I gotta stop talking about it, but it's a beautiful thing. The more I think about it, man, you go down that rabbit hole, just the power of music. It's nuts, man.
And also, when people, I think there's two types of listeners: the people that just enjoy a good melody or a good beat, like you said, but the people that do put the two together and realize that how powerful it is. Or when I always think I listen to music real carefully, and then I come across somebody that really just nails it when they say, listen to this. I remember growing up in, like, Stevie Wonder, for example. I liked him. Okay, Stevie Wonder, great. And now as an adult, I love the fact that he layered all his music, and someone had to tell me that. I didn't listen. I was hearing this layer on top of that layer and this layer. And it's always neat when someone can, so I do more of that now, but growing up, people would tell me things like, wow, I just heard a good melody, and now I hear it all. I listen to everything in the song.
Yeah. And it's also, dang it, I had a thought about that and lost it. Never mind. I'll circle back.
That's fine. We got time.
Yeah.
We'll circle right back on that.
Maybe you can tell. It came back to me. Yeah. The other trick I love that music plays on you is when it takes an upbeat tempo and puts the saddest lyrics you ever heard.
Just said.
Yeah, yeah, but it really tricks your brain. I was going to give some examples with that though. Like there's this Bobby Darin song called Artificial Flowers, you know, and it's this tempy, upbeat Sinatra jazz swinging thing, man, but it's like the saddest story you ever heard about this little girl freezing to death who sells artificial flowers on, you know, and it's like, you know, you're just like bobbing along like this and go, wait a minute. That is incredibly sad.
Yeah.
Yes, you could just say that. I wanted to add to it.
I came across a song like that just the other day, and I was thinking about that. Thought, boy, this is so upbeat. And then I listened to the lyrics and thought, how difficult, because I knew the pain of the songwriter. I knew why they were writing the song they were writing. They had lost a band member, but they were talking about getting the news about that. But it was so upbeat and so many instruments and such a full sound. But I knew why. If you know, to the people who really followed that band, they knew why he was writing that. And it was it was an oxymoron, upbeat tempo and super sad lyrics, like you mentioned, Willie. Like you both mentioned about that, you know, how they really. So
I doubled back on her. I'm sorry.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with the name The Waymores and how you found yourselves having to kind of clarify a little bit the meaning of the name as being a very positive, an homage to, you know, the artist.
That's an easy one. You want this or you want me?
I would just like to add that I don't like our band name, and wish that we could change it. But you go ahead.
When I presented it to her that night, she loved it. She thought it was great. I said, "Hey, I've been thinking about this." And at first, I wanted to call us the Atlanta Waymores, and she was like, "I don't like that." I said, "What about just the Waymores?" And she went, "I like that." So maybe it's the lesser of two.
I think it was. I like that better.
Yeah, but so there were a couple. We're the ones we've got the trademark on that. We officially own that.
There is another group called the Waymores.
I think there's a couple of others actually.
There's the main one is a group of songwriters out of Nashville. They're really heavy hitting songwriters, and they're great songwriters. But they've written for some really big names.
They've written for Waylon.
They've written for Waylon and a lot of people in that time. But they hadn't, as far as I am aware, they hadn't put anything out since like 2012 and.
They don't tour. It's just a songwriter thing. But we officially, the label was real adamant about making sure we own the trademark to the name once we started getting some traction. So, I mean, we own the trademark to the name, and we couldn't. I thought for sure that we went to apply for that. Surely somebody else would have it. Nobody had it. So we're like, well, we're the official Waymores now because we own the trademark and the domain.
But it was Waylon's nickname growing up was Waymore. And that's why we're both huge Waylon fans. Who couldn't be? He's been a inspiration to both of us and a hero to both of us. So while the name makes sense, I just still don't love it at all.
Stuck with it now, just like me.
And did I read somewhere that maybe at some point people didn't understand it? There was actually a very positive like honor to Waylon by the name that some people misunderstood.
I think somebody on social media like one or two times was saying something like, you know, oh, this is I can't even remember the verbiage that they used, but something about we were ripping off like Waymores Outlaws or something like that. And that's not what it does to us at all. It really is paying homage to our hero. Regardless of my love for it or not, it does. That's why we picked it, was because we love Waylon so much, and it is an homage to him.
And at the time, you know, we were just throwing a name out, something to call ourselves around the Atlanta, you know, Marietta kind of local scene, you know, for us just to play under. We didn't expect us to start getting to where we got with this. So, but the name, you know, I still enjoy the name, even though she doesn't like it. We're stuck with it now, by God.
We've built a brand. It's over.
We built a brand.
Who are some of the other songwriters and musicians that have inspired you over the years? In addition, you've mentioned a few names already in our conversation. Both of you have. Who are some other songwriters? I'd like to ask you that question inside and outside of the genre of music that you are most known for.
That's a great question.
Well, let's talk about who Willie can't shut up about for the last month and a half.
Oh, but he's not a songwriter.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
But and musicians and anyone that's inspired.
I'm an Elvis fanatic, so she's going on about that. I'm always reading something about Elvis or watching something about it. But like as far as songwriting goes, I think both of us, John Prine, huge.
Yeah.
That guy learned so much about songwriting from that guy that you can say the deepest thing with the most tongue-in-cheek line. So really love John Prine. Another one of my huge influences songwriting wise is Steve Earle. That just,
and on that same note, Townes Van Zandt,
Townes
it was
is definitely
huge for both of us.
We learned a lot from Townes too. Townes taught us the art of Townes would sing the saddest song you ever heard, but then tell the dumbest, funniest joke in between the songs to keep the mood light. It's like, that song is really, you got to bring them back up, man. Can't just.
We brought a lot of that aspect into our live performances. There's a lot of laughter and a lot of just kind of, it feels like a room full of your family and your friends. We get the audience involved a lot in our live shows. And
we play every show like we're all sitting in our living room.
Yes.
With a lot of whiskey.
Because that's how we would want it.
Yeah.
So hopefully everyone else likes that.
So it's very, a lot of people, not, to each their own, but it bothers me when I go to a show and the writer will spend 15 minutes telling the saddest story you ever heard about why he wrote the saddest song you ever heard. And it's like, man, I get all of that from the song itself. I don't need a 15-minute preamble about why the song is so sad. I get the song. I can hear the sad song. So we try to, even if we do tell us, we still keep the story of the song lighthearted and let the song do the speaking for itself, because it seems to us, people come out to see us play to forget about how crappy their week has been, forget about how hard their lives are, forget that their wife is cheating on them or whatever. They came to get away from all that. They just want to, drink and laugh and have a good time.
Right. But it sounds like you find a balance.
Yeah.
It sounds like you find a balance with it, because some of your songs will be sad and some of your songs, it's therapeutic when you write, but you find a way to bring them back. And like you said, like to keep the room up and to not let them hear the song rather than spend the 15 minutes explaining it. You're singing it, you're enjoying it with them, and then saying, hey, how about that? Now let's go on to this.
Yeah. Right. And we love to do it in the live shows, because we play a lot of songs that we didn't write too, because sometimes you're playing a 3-hour show, sometimes you're playing just 90 minutes, and sometimes people just need to hear a damn George Jones song while they're drinking, But one of the things I love to do is, our shows will get a little faster and a little, funnier, a little rowdier, but then we'll do the great reset where it's like, you can't get, bam, just a tear jerking slow song right here, boom, it resets everybody, brings them right back in. I love to do that.
It's interesting that you bring that up about how, like, because I was going to ask you about, I guess I'll ask you this question now with the upcoming record, and in the past, when you think about sequencing, even for like a show, how it really is something that is planned out to bring the room up and down, or the album. Yeah, it is. You're right.
It's
You're right.
definitely
Absolutely.
an art.
So we don't ever have a set list. We know what song we're going to start the show with and what song we're going to end the show with, but everything in the middle depends on our audience and their reaction to us and how the room feels.
That is so cool. That is so neat.
Yeah.
I mean, just to think
You got to
about
read
It
the
definitely
room.
keeps you on your toes a bit.
Yeah, and it's now there are times that will change. Is if we're opening for a bigger name, we got 45 minutes, and still we'll have some freedoms in there, but we'll kind of structure, halfway through, we'll know we need to do this song, but when you're playing, a honky tonk show where you're in there for a couple of hours, you have to read the room.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to be restricted by that set list. I want to be able to just play what feels natural at that time. And I think it works better than trying to stay structured.
And I would think too, your fan base really appreciates that, because people who follow you from venue to venue and show to show, no two shows are ever the same, because you mix it up. And, so that's really, I think someone like Bruce Springsteen does that. I think Bruce Springsteen does a 3-hour set typically.
Yeah.
And we had a show like probably a year ago or so that was just terrible. I can't remember where it was. But I'm not going to say it. And there weren't a lot of people there, but some of our diehard fans came out, and they had probably been to the show the night before and were coming to the one the night after. And so Willie and I, since they were the only ones there, just started playing all these old songs that we hadn't played in years together. And really just kind of treating it as a paid rehearsal and but having fun with our fans at the same time. And I remember them coming up to us afterwards and saying, that was incredible. I heard I got to hear so
I didn't
many
know y'all
songs
played that
tonight
song.
that I never hear, so, and there's, always some staple jokes and some staple stupidness that always goes on, but we love the opportunities, even if it is like a bad show. That was a great time because we got to relearn all of these songs that we had, somewhat forgotten about because we were just had so much freedom on the stage, or we were like, well, it's just them here and they want us to play stuff that we haven't normally played before.
Well, and it was also a lot of, hey, you know what I've been wanting to try to play again? I have, there was a lot of that. And it's like and we, y'all not going to care, and we don't play by a set list, but when you do it 200 nights a year, you start to get into a groove of, well, we have, like, if we're doing a 3-set show, it's like, we know we have songs that are first set songs, second set songs, and then closer show, which is usually kind of more adult oriented, but so you kind of know what set certain songs are as a first set song. Now, now that we've just started back, some of those first set songs are now moved into like second set, and we've got more stuff in the first.
And some of them kind of we let go of.
Yeah, a couple of them we just dismissed.
Because you, like Willie said, you spend 200 days a year playing the same songs, and even if the crowd isn't so much tired of them, there's some songs that I just cannot play again. And maybe I will pick them back up in a year or something, but for right now, I'm just sick of playing it. So and they're all covers. There's none of, we play all
all our stuff I still love to play, but the old standards, I like to call them.
Yeah.
Some of them we just let go. And I'm always amazed too, when it's just a song will pop in my head that we might not have ever played, but I know that she knows it, she knows that I know it, and we'll just start playing this Merle Haggard song that we have never played before and dial right in.
Yeah, I want it known that Willie does that to me all the time. I don't do that. Willie does that to me all the time.
This is true.
He's like, oh, you'll get it. You'll get it. You know it. I'm just like, cool.
Yeah, you'll get it. Just follow me.
What's interesting about that, Kira, too, is that it gives that moment where they could tell that both of you are just kind of pulling that song together on stage. So for whatever reason it is, just like, people have a curious factor. They want to know about people's lives. They want to know about musicians and about how they live and all that. They also like to see them just be human on stage, like you said. And if you miss a chord or if you sing a different lyric, they love that. I know Paul McCartney had said once, people asked me at a show if I purposely missed that lyric. If I missed that lyric, and he said, of course I didn't miss that lyric on purpose.
Yeah.
People love it,
Well, good, because I'm the queen of that. But there's a very human element, and that's a great way to put it to our shows, I think. And we laugh at each other and poke fun at each other, especially if somebody messes up, that we're just like, what is that line? And so we are the first ones to laugh at ourselves, just to hopefully let the crowd know that y'all are allowed to laugh at this too. Nobody here we're not all rigid and serious. This is it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, there's no ego keeping me from fessing up to my errors on stage.
I think that's great, because it just people can connect with you, and as you continue to just build and build and build this fan base, that you had this momentum that you're on right now, that these people will appreciate that you're just like them, that you're just you might make a mistake on the stage, you might miss a lyric, you might miss a line, you might say the wrong thing, and there's people who are too rigid. Sometimes it's hard to relate to them, or if a set is exactly these 10 songs every night, 200 nights a year, and fans like to go to multiple shows. Sometimes they get bored with that themselves. Say, I heard this exact set the last 5 times I went.
Yeah,
I could name band after band that I love. It's like, I'm not going to name them, but it's like, let's go see. Now I'm like, you know what? I've seen that show for 5 years. I'm not going to go see that show again.
Right. But name a couple bands maybe that we were going to talk about outside the genre of any. I mean, you said growing up punk music. You said you listened to a lot of punk music. Kara, I don't know what songs you were listening to. The two of you.
So Elvis always been in my staple since I was a kid, all through growing up in high school in the 80s. I remember Elvis has always been in my wheelhouse, always. But with that being said, I've always loved the Misfits, and I even do Misfits. We countrify some Misfits on our show. Your turn.
I grew up listening So my dad would always force us to clean the house on Saturdays while my mom got to go off and shop. And he would blast Miles Davis and
Yeah.
John
Okay.
Coltrane. And at the time I was like, I hate this so much. Cause I was like 9 or 10, and that music, it might be kind of hard to understand. So I still, now it has a very special place in my heart because of those memories. And like bands like CCR,
Yeah, CCR.
that's
Another big
you
one.
can't go wrong.
Another big one with me is Thin Lizzy.
Oh yeah.
Grew up on a lot of
Yeah.
Thin Lizzy. You know, and I like the early Kiss stuff too, but I was always more of a Thin Lizzy fan, I think, than a Kiss fan. But my brother growing up, Thin Lizzy nut, and that's where I got it from. But now I realize, you know, he was right. Phil Lynott was a genius.
I was also like an angry girl in the 90s. So Alanis Morissette was really like, you know, I was real angsty about that and
Yeah.
listened to a lot of that and Sheryl Crow.
Yeah, I remember when I was in high school, you know, it was either everybody was into Bon Jovi or Metallica. But there was this, I went to school at this real country ass school, you know. So it was a miracle that even like the Misfits or the Cramps ever even made it into,
Oh
you
my
know,
God,
my
the
psyche.
Cramps.
Uh,
The Cramps were really big in my house too.
but I was this weird kid that was into Elvis and the Stray Cats and Social Distortion.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, just I didn't understood why people like Metallica so much. You know, I like some metal now in my older years. Don't get me wrong, but I remember being in high school just thinking, I don't understand. I don't relate, and that's the biggest thing with music. People don't. I try to curb myself when I hear something that I don't like. I used to be so my younger that sucks. That's terrible, and it's like, no, it doesn't. To me, it does.
Subjective.
It's subjective. Music is subjective. So now I've learned to tame that back. Go, I don't relate to that. I don't understand it. So therefore, I don't want to listen to it. I try not to be. I hate that. When you're talking about something that somebody loves as much as I love Elvis, you're telling them I hate that. That comes across as harsh, you know. It's like I don't understand it, I don't relate to it, so I don't listen to it. But I didn't relate to Metallica or any of that stuff. They were either, you know,
What's the weird kind of hippie band that was
Blind Melon.
no, oh, I loved Blind
I love
Melon
Blind
though.
Melon.
That keep a little birdhouse in your
Oh,
soul, not to put a fine point on it.
Yeah,
Stay on the old bird in your bonnet.
yeah.
They Might Be Giants.
They Might Be Giants. Yeah,
That one was a
the
big
little
one in my
birdhouse
house.
in
Too.
your
Yes.
soul.
Yeah.
Put the fine point on it.
My brother and I loved them and would always go to concerts with our dad. And it was like every year they'd come to, I think it was like the Tabernacle, and it was around November, and we would all just go together, and it was just this really nice, exciting time for us with our dad. So that is another one that I probably wouldn't. I still like a lot of their music, but I think it's more sentimental than anything.
You know,
Yeah.
another person that I always, and I mean, I was a fan of their music. I was always been a fan of his music. I was never like obsessed, but he always stayed. Tom Petty. I could always think about, you know, growing up is like how trends came and went, and all these different styles of music, you know, came. Is like Tom Petty always stayed relevant. My whole life, that guy was on the charts and relevant, and he was a badass. He was you know. So I always liked Tom Petty's music, but I was never a fanatic about it. But I always really respected the fact that guy stayed relevant through all of these trends and all of these different things, all the way up till the day he passed. You know.
Didn't you go through a big Backstreet Boys phase?
No. No.
No.
No.
That was one place that you did. That was one route you didn't take.
I was in a Backstreet Boy tribute band
Yeah,
we met. Actually,
okay.
it wasn't
News
the
is
No
out.
Campalugas.
It's so neat to hear the different artists that both of you had listened to growing up or had liked or still respect today. It's so neat because then you think about there's a place for every type of music in the universe, like you said. You know, maybe it's not someone's cup of tea, but it's someone else's. And it's interesting that in small ways and sometimes in large ways, how it influences your own songwriting and your
Yeah.
performing. It's in its own way.
See, I have this other theory too, that all forms of music are the blues. If they're touching your soul and easing you, all forms, they just change names. Country music, you know, it's country.
Yeah.
You know, if you're you know, it's country. If you're in the islands, it's reggae. You know, if you're a pissed off at your dad suburban kid, it's metal.
Yeah.
You know, but to me, you know, it's like all music is the blues if it soothes you somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
Not to piss off blues fans.
I believe that so the upcoming album is called Stone Sessions, and because the
Right.
involvement of producer, songwriter, and pedal steel player, is that how it's named after Steve
Steve
Stone,
Stone,
kind
yeah.
of? And I thought maybe you could tell us a little bit more about how he helped to pull the album together as you wrote together, and then he helped to pull some of that by playing and also producing.
You want to
Go ahead.
So, well, we first, when quarantine came around, like all of our peers, we were just left with nothing to do but write songs. So we thought to keep us relevant that we would go to Steve Stone's studio and just record one track. And then I knew that our drummer could track at home, and I knew our guitar player could track at home. And, so we thought we'll just go do this one track. And then it kind of went a lot easier with this, everybody phoning it in. I don't mean that derogatory, everybody working from home remotely, I guess.
Right.
That we just decided, hey, let's do a whole album this way. But we would bring the songs to Steve. We would scratch them out, record them on our phones, send that, just demo over to Steve, and he'd kind of kick around some arrangements. Steve Stone produced, but we also produced. We're very,
Willie did.
Yeah.
It was Willie and Steve.
Steve engineered
Yeah.
and produced, but I also had a say in arrangements and what to do here and there. But he would kind of help come up with an arrangement, or we would, get together, have a little mind session, a little powwow over it. Then we'd lay out a scratch track right there, and we'd play bass in the studio and do some steel. No, we would do steel later.
Steel was added later. Bass and acoustic and vocal were all cut
Scratch,
in Steve's
yeah.
studio, and then we'd send it to drums, and then send it to guitar.
Yeah, and then if the drummer did something we didn't like, the thing that really sucks about this new way of recording is that you don't get to kick the song around in the studio and everybody bring it to life together. It's like when Sean Thacker, our drummer's playing, he's in the studio, and we made our first album. I was like, hey man, do that, but try this before you ever roll tape. It'd be like, hey, okay, dude. Now it's like you got to send it to him. He records, 2 or 3 different ways of doing it, send it to us. We go, I like, arrangement B, do that, And so you have to recondition your brain about how you're making a record, because it's a lot slower of a process, and that gets aggravating.
Yeah, we started recording this in like November or December of 2020.
Yeah.
So it took a good bit longer than most of our records.
Yeah, it took a lot longer than most of our. Of course, we played more songs on this album than we did on our first EP. But so that's how it would go. It was a lot of kicking stuff back and forth, and it would take, as to where you could work out a song together and arrangement wise in a day, in the studio with everybody in the room. Sometimes it would take 2 weeks to get, one song figured out, so it was very slow and grueling.
Right. I guess it was good that you had the time. I guess it was good you had the time to do it, because of the fact that we've been our lives have been kind of uprooted a little bit during the pandemic, and just to, maybe I always try to find a silver lining. So maybe the fact that you got to spend a little more time than you might normally get to spend in a song, maybe it's just
an absolute blessing for sure.
Yeah.
If you can find a blessing to come from the pandemic, it is that we have the time to take and to do this, and it's not like we could have put it out a year ago and still had the same reception. It's people are just now starting to get back to any kind of normalcy, if that's ever going to be a thing again. So the timing, Willie and I always try our best. It's not always possible, but we try our best to trust the process and trust in what the universe is pulling us toward. So that was this.
Yeah, and it like I said, it was, there were some like moments of, yay, that's awesome. But, a lot of aggravations because of the time delay. But now when I listen back to the record as a final product, I'm very pleased with it. At times when we were making the record, I just thought it's never going to sound as good as I think it could sound. And it's taking so long, all these aggravations were getting in the way of me listening with honest ears. But now that, it's done, you sit back and listen to it, it's like, it's a very good record. I'm very proud of us. I'm very proud of all the players and, everybody that worked on it. It's all, I have to learn to slow it down, because this is what it's going to be like to make records. Now it's a new world now,
Hopefully we can come back somewhere to the middle of it, somewhere to the middle.
Fingers crossed.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I understand the first single, you know, in the world, I mean, the industry has changed so much, but we talk about singles still. We talk about taking a song off the album and promoting it and having that be the one that you want people to hear
Mhm.
first. And so I
Yeah.
understand that the first single on the upcoming album is called Even When.
That's right.
Maybe you could tell, both of you could tell us a little bit about the song and then your plans to get it in front of the public so that they can be brought into this project, you know, dive in.
So we wrote this song during quarantine, and it definitely started out being about someone specific, but like most of our songs and us being two people instead of one, it kind of morphed into just being about a bunch of our past relationships and friendships that had gone to the wayside. And even though it was the correct thing to do, letting people go, it doesn't mean that your mind can just shut off and be like, oh, I don't miss that person, because you have all these memories and these moments with this person that, you know, add this sentiment to it. And so it's kind of about letting go of, you know, losses and loved ones and stuff, but at the same time kind of spitefully like, don't you miss me?
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, I can't be the only one thinking about you, like you're, you know. So it kind of came from like a mix of places. And but we had a lot of fun writing it, and this was one that was done really quickly. This was I think we wrote this in like, you know, half an hour.
We did, but we spent several hours fine tuning.
So yeah, we wrote the lyrics in half an hour. The dynamics for this song were all Willie, and were very much born in the studio once we kind of got in there and started tracking, and he was like, wait.
Yeah.
And
Let's break down here. Let's do this here.
Let's do this and this, and it turned out really fun. And this is the
at the end of this, it was really great. I kept thinking, I was in Steve Stone was tracking his steel part, and at the end of the song, we got to the end of the song, and I was like, man, I'd really like a banjo, just slow roll right here. And then I, you know, thought, man, it takes so long to find a banjo player. Then to, you know, and I was like, hey, would you just play the steel guitar like a banjo right here at the end of the song? And he went, absolutely. And this is one of my favorite little tricks on the record.
Yeah.
Just a little, you know.
Yeah, for both of us, that was a really fun little thing that they came up with.
Yeah, that's great. I know you got the guitar in hand. It's the first single. Do you guys want to?
Sure, absolutely. Thought you would never ask.
I'm going to close my screen here because I want people to focus on you. So I'm going to close my window for a moment. It's all you guys now.
You got it. Okay. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't miss none of my friends left behind, dry back then. If you're sitting home just wondering, I don't miss you, I don't miss you even when walking alone in the cold, cold wind, those old memories rushing in, cold cuts deep, just like a long lost friend. I don't miss you, I don't miss you even when I see your photos in an old shoebox, keeping track of everything I've lost, trying hard to hold on to what I got. It ain't a lot, it's not a lot. I got everything I need, worn out boots and homegrown weed. I'm the match, you're the gasoline. I don't miss you, I don't miss you constantly, till I see your photos in an old shoebox, keeping track of everything I've lost, trying hard to hold on to what I got. It ain't a lot, it's not a lot. I don't miss none of my friends left behind, dry back then. If you're sitting home just wondering, I don't miss you, I don't miss you even when I don't miss you, I don't miss you even when.
Love it. Oh, that's such a treat to get to hear that performed live and in a
Thank you.
very acoustic way. You know, it's so great. Thank you for sharing it with us.
You're welcome. It's so funny. We were realizing the other day, it's like you sit at home, you write these songs on acoustic, then you go into the studio and you work out full band arrangements for them. Then once that's done, you come back home and work out acoustic arrangements for the song you wrote on acoustic guitar in the first place.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to do these songs, just the two of us.
It is funny because you talk about the pedal steel guitar and all the different things you worked into it. Then, like you said,
Yeah.
taking it back to its roots.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was wonderful. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're doing it with the full band during South by.
South by
Yeah.
Southwest, we got put on the official showcase this year, so we're flying out the boys to do a couple of full band shows in Austin for that. And then I'm hoping our album release party, if it happens, will be full band.
Yeah.
So we have a few, where we take the guys out, and that's always really fun. We've got incredible players, and they're all such kind and humble people, and we just love having them in our camp and glad that they're available.
Yeah, and
Sometimes.
at South by, we want to do the full, but the truest interpretation of the album that we can.
Yeah.
So we need the full band, but they're going to fly out because we'll be in New Mexico on tour. So we'll have to meet them as, in Austin. So yay, South by Southwest. It's not a headache, I promise.
We're thrilled.
Yeah, what an exciting thing to be a part of, to be able to perform at South by Southwest, and all the people that you can reach who love these genres of music that you find yourselves most recording and performing in, to really get their ear and get them to tell their friends and just let it just catch on.
Right. Yeah.
We're hoping this is a really big year for them, since they haven't been able to do it in the last 2
Oh,
years.
I don't know. I know we missed one because we were in Europe, and I think when we
were supposed to go to UK.
Oh yeah.
And then everything got shut down, and then South by got shut down. So it's been 2 years, I think, since South by has been a thing.
Right.
So we're hoping that this year is a really big comeback for them, and in turn for us.
Yeah, hopefully, I think it just feels like some of these festivals are starting to come back onto the plate. So hopefully this will be the year we see live music coming back in a bigger way than we've been able to do in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, fortunately for us as a duo, when everything hit, man, everybody stopped having full band stuff, which didn't, that was the first thing when music started coming back. It was as acoustics only,
Mhm.
So we fell right back in. We were like, hey, just so happens we're only 2 acoustics.
Yeah.
So, we were able to get back at it quicker than a lot of our friends, with caution, of course, being as smart as you can. But, we had to go back to work, It's like it's what we do.
I wanted to talk about another song on the album. How did it come about that in the process of including the Dale Watson song Caught on the upcoming album, that you were able to get him to actually perform on the song with you?
Yeah, that's cool.
That took balls, my
what,
friend.
Dale played on the record?
That's what that took.
Yeah.
No, Dale is such an incredible guy, and his wife Celine is equally as incredible. And we had opened for Willie did some dates with Dale back in like the early 2000s.
When I was my solo career was really going strong, I was lucky enough to be able to do several tour dates with Dale. And I always tell Dale this now, it's like, you unknowingly like mentored me. He would always pull me to the side right after I got off stage, go, hey, he taught me how to work a microphone. Cause he goes, when you sing it deep, you got to get on the microphone. And when you get, he just would pull me aside and give me all these little hints and then go on stage, and so I hadn't seen him in a lot of years. And then we had the luxury of opening for him and here in Atlanta. And after his set, when he came down, I reintroduced myself, and he's like, little Willie. And I was like, I've always been taller than you, Dale. But he just loved us, and he became, he really said that he really enjoyed our stuff. And then we were out in Austin one time and managed to get to go.
That was after. So I messaged Celine. Dale's Facebook got hacked like the day that I sent him the message about asking to be on this song with us, and honestly asking for his blessing to cover it at first. And then I read right after I sent it that his Facebook had been hacked, and I was like, awesome, that's just my luck. And so I messaged Celine, who's so kind and sweet, and I said, can you please possibly pass this along to Dale? Just let us know if you guys like it, if you like the idea. And we had done like a scratch version of it, so we sent it over, and she got back to me and said, we love it. You have our blessing, and Dale's all about playing on it. So it took a while to, kind of coordinate everything.
And we
especially
knew,
with Dale's tour schedule too.
and we did that song like second. Once we knew we were going to make an album, we had this
Mm-hmm.
idea because we knew it would take Dale a while to get his part to us. So that was
He
like,
stays, man,
Yeah.
he is the hardest working man in country music right
Yeah.
now. But so
it took him a
then,
while, but he got to it.
then we were out in Austin playing some shows, and it was a crazy day. We went to go see a friend at Green Hall, and that
morning.
friend got Willie up on stage at Green and played some songs there. And then Willie and I went and did a showcase at Pootie's Roadhouse in Spicewood, which is just north of Austin. We did our showcase there, and then we drove back down and went to the Continental Club because Dale was playing and we wanted to hang out. And so I got up on stage with
He got
Dale,
us up on stage
him
to
sang
sing.
Caught that night, and his fiddle player was Katie Shore on that show from Asleep at the Wheel. So Katie and I hit it off and just started talking in like following weeks and stuff, just texting about tour stuff, tour life. And I sent her a message and just said, hey, Dale just finished his tracks on this. How would you feel about putting some fiddle on it? She's like, absolutely. And she got hers done lickety split. And we were just, we felt completely honored that both of them said yes so quickly and said yes at all.
Yeah. And the other cool thing about that day, just talking, is that one day we played 3 legendary stages.
Yeah, that was a fun day.
Played Green Hall, played Pootie's, and played the Continental Club all in one day.
It's really a fun day.
It's like a honky tonk superhero.
Those are like some of the best moments on tour, is when your tour lines up with one of your friends or your peers, and you get to just kind of crash each other's shows and be silly and have fun with each other. And it leads to great friendships and relationships, with both of them.
And the fans love it. The fans love that. They love to see, collaborations that are on at the moment, collaborations that just kind of spontaneously to them spontaneously happen. And sometimes to you too, it's spontaneously that it just works out. But sometimes just to see that interact, fans love that. They live for those shows to see that happen. So it's a win-win.
We were at the White Horse one night. It's so funny. And I stepped outside to smoke a joint that's over on 6th Street, and stepped around the corner. And as I was coming back out around the corner, I just saw this cowboy walking down the street by himself. And I was like, "You're Charlie Crockett." And he went, "Yep." And so we took a picture together, and I was like, showing Kira. Then a few minutes later, Sierra Farrell was in there. Kira's on stage with Sierra Farrell. I was like, life is too crazy.
Yeah, that's what makes me love tour life so much, is when you
never know.
You never, and especially in Austin, you never know who you're going to run into or what the show's going to end up as. And we're really blessed to have a lot of friends in the industry. That it was one of our friends that was playing that night. Sierra had a sold out show at the big arena there, and then came for her like after party, to White Horse, and there were probably all of 7 to 10 people in there.
Yeah, it was late.
And it was really late, and we were just dancing and singing, and it's just such an incredible life that
you never know who you're going to run into. It's crazy, but I love it.
I'm going to put her on the next album.
Something too about the whole, so you've got that live in person, you never know who you're going to cross paths with, on the road. Also, just that the fact that social media is what it is, artists were protected by assistants and managers and publicity people. Now you could reach out to somebody on Facebook, like you said, or something, and reach somebody. So the people that maybe seem so far away out here as people that maybe you would like to songwrite with or work with or have them play an instrument on the album, they're just a couple of keystrokes away on a keyboard sometimes, and sometimes they do it.
You have to be somewhat approachable in this industry. It's not like it was. You're absolutely right before. Now it's with social media. You have to be somewhat approachable, and it's a weird thing. Kira runs our social media stuff, and thank God for it, because I would just lose my mind. But there's that element of, you feel like you have to. They want you to share their lives with you. That's what they expect, some of your life. So you have to offer them some, but you also have to try to stay private, because there's some things that are like, hey, I understand that this is now everybody's got their own TV show with Instagram. Everybody's got their own reality show now. With Instagram and Facebook, and they want insight to your personal lives too. but it's like you have to only give so much. There's a fine line. It's like, how much are you going to offer up for everybody to know about?
Well, he's a lot stricter on that than I am, because I'm just kind of an open book and just like, oh, whatever. And he's like, you're not posting that.
Yeah.
So he kind of reels me in with that a little bit. And it is a really good thing, because having constant access to somebody doesn't mean deserving constant access to somebody.
Right.
And so that's a really, important thing for us to hold as our careers get bigger and our fan base grows, and we love them and are thankful for all of them so much. And I'm the person that's constantly wanting to show our fans how appreciative we are, and not make them wait for a response, and not make them, feel like, oh, she's unapproachable or they're unapproachable, like they're just rude. And so my face is not just for social media, but I also manage us. So my face is always in the computer or my phone. And it's really important to me to continue that connection with our fans and our friends.
Yeah, because a lot of that times people nowadays and translate as, hey, this is me time. As, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're unapproachable. You're an asshole. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, man, you don't get me all of the time.
Yeah.
It's 3:00 in the morning. I know you're sending a message, but I'm not responding at 3:00 in the morning.
I probably would.
It's a fine balance. It really is. It's a fine balance, because you do have to, and you would hope that fans would respect your privacy. There's a fine line with how much social media and how much,
Yeah.
how much they get to know, and
Yeah.
it's only fair that you get to keep a portion of your life private.
Yeah, right.
It's a fine
not
line.
like we're superstars or anything, but still, it just seems like
Only in our heads.
But that people do just, I'm done with that rant. Yeah.
You were gonna go somewhere.
I was, and I
shouldn't.
decided I shouldn't say anything what I was just thinking.
All right, good deal.
I wanted to ask you a songwriting question. So I really enjoy the way that the two of you trade verses on many of the songs before you bring your voices together through melody and harmony. And when you write these songs, do you find yourselves each writing a verse? Like you come up with a concept and then you each write a verse, or do you find yourselves writing the verses together, each of the verses? Because it's so cool how they kind of overlay.
Yes.
Yes to all of it.
So sometimes it does happen that way. There's been times when I've written the majority of a song, and I'll kind of rough out, like Heart of Stone's a good example for that. I kind of wrote most of the verses on that, kind of roughly how they were, and then I was like, hey, Kira, this would be your verse right here. But and Kira's like, okay, but she took it and it's like, this is your verse. This is kind of what I'm specking out here. And she took what I'd written and crafted it to fit her, but there are times, we finish each other's lines. Like, how about this line? And then how about this line? It's always, there's no formula to how it comes about. So Kira wrote all of Road Worn, and she was like, you sing this part and I'll sing this part. And I'm like, she goes, craft it, make it, do whatever you got to do to make it feel natural to you. So sometimes.
And then even when I think we wrote our own verses, pretty much.
Yeah, Kira was like here, and it was like.
We were together. So a lot of times when we write, we don't like sit down and schedule a writing session or plan out a writing session. It'll like, Willie will come in the house and I'll be in the middle of something usually. And he'll go, well, listen to what I just wrote. And I'll be like, okay, stop everything. Let's finish this song. So he will have already written what would turn out to be his verse. So I'd come in and work on, what would turn out to be mine, or vice versa. And even when I think I wrote the first verse and we were together and I was like, what do you think of this? And you were like, oh, I could see this here. And that turned out to be his second verse.
And we wrote the chorus together.
So that one was just a complete, melt of each other writing. But then on a lot of others, it's one or the other writing and the other one tweaking.
Yeah, and on our first album, we've got a song called Matches.
Oh, that one was cool.
It's cool. So Kira wrote these verses for this song, and she's like, but I can't come up with a chorus. And ironically, I had written this chorus like 20 years ago and had been carrying it around. And it's like, I couldn't find a song to put it in. I didn't want to force it. So she wrote these verses. I'm like, I've had a verse, of course, for that song for 20 years. She's like, oh, Daddy, and I did. And and I was like, it worked perfect.
Don't call him Daddy.
It worked out perfectly, and I was like, I'm glad I didn't try to force that chorus into another song just to get rid of it. So the songwriting, it's just, there is no rhyme or reason to it with us. And one thing's for sure, we never sat down and go, it's songwriting session, let's do it. It does always just kind of start happening.
But we're never not writing.
Yeah, if that makes sense too.
So
Yeah.
there's like a list in my phone in the notes section that's like ridiculously long, that just has little one-liners that we'll be driving down the road and Willie will say something and I'm like, that's genius. And I'll write that down and we'll come back to it later and write a song around it, or you know, we'll hear something that somebody else says in some bar and be like, that would make an incredible song.
Yeah.
So we'll write that down and steal all their ideas.
And I've got a ton of voice recorder notes where I'll
Mhm.
sing like a melody, goes, this would be a cool, you know, just little fragments. I don't know that we've ever actually pulled any of those out and stuck them in a song, have we?
Weeds of your voice recordings, or
No,
just all
just
together?
some of the
Weeds
notes.
came from a note.
Weeds did come from
Weeds
notes.
came from
Yeah.
a note. There's been a few where we've added, for sure. Most of them are just really fun for us to go back like 6 months later and be like, why were we writing
Yeah.
this down? This is terrible.
But songwriting's always been like that for me. They've always just, like I said, the antenna. I've always just felt like you're an antenna, and the life that you live conditions that antenna to receive a certain signal. So when that song starts coming in, it's coming. You know, it used to crack me up in Nashville when people be like, hey, let's get together and write. And I'm like, how do you schedule art?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I don't understand that. My brain doesn't work that way. I'm sure people do it all the time, but
They do.
I'm like, I can't just be like, hey, let's show up at noon, get some drinks, and then start writing. I'm like, I don't work that
I've
way.
done that before. I did it with a friend of mine. And we had several good songs. We were gonna form like a little girl group, and
Yeah, I remember that.
we had some good stuff. But like most things, that just didn't pan out because the way
Because you were forcing it.
I didn't say the songs didn't pan out.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were great, especially
were,
the ones
actually.
I wrote. And it just, you know, my heart is the Waymores, and anything else definitely isn't going to be getting 100% of my attention.
I think I did write a jingle one time, and I had to sit down and just like force something out. But see, that's a jingle. You're supposed to sit down and force that stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, what I thought was very interesting how you know, first of all, there's no formula, like you said. When a formula starts to happen, that's when it gets kind of forced, you know, and so you just find those moments. And I think it's so neat how you talk about that chorus being 20 years in the making, it being sitting there for 20 years and not knowing where to put it. And then Kira brings along some lyrics that fit what she wrote with that chorus. And again, amateur songwriter, completely amateur, but I found that I just would just not be afraid to leave a song unfinished. And that was my problem for so many years, is I had to finish a song. Why finish it? Just leave it and let it come back to it. I started to make a file cabinet with different songs.
Yeah.
But that's a very mature, you keep referring to yourself as an amateur songwriter, but that's a very mature way. It took a long time for me to do the same, you know, to like, hey man, dial it back. You don't have to finish the song, you know, right now. One of the hardest things I ever had to do with that was a song I have of mine. It's called Broken Hearted Beauty Queen. And that's like one of my favorite things I've, you know, ever written. But it's like, man, that was the first song I ever spent a length of time crafting, you know, and it's like, that's a very mature way to do it. You know, it's like this forcing it. You can hear it. People that really feel me, you can hear, and we'll hear some songs that start out great. And we can tell that happened in a song. It's like, it was good up to here. Now it all sounds forced. Like, I got to finish this song.
Yeah.
It's very freeing when you just leave it be for a while and you come back to it. I started to make everything I do. You're right. You know,
it takes a lot of restraint.
It does, because you feel like, I want this to be done. I want to finish this at this moment. You just feel like you want to get it. And then you go back and you're just like, sometimes it's so rewarding when you can go back to a lyric and the divine intervention or whatever, that voice or whatever it is, gets in there and helps you to finish it later on. No timetable. So,
you know what drives me crazy on the internet is when people go post videos of them. I started writing a song. What do you think so far? Don't do that. Don't give us part of your damn song. Finish the whole thing and torture me with it later.
So true. I love that.
Some people really like that though, getting their fans into it.
It's like, I don't want to hear the writing process. I want to hear the final. That's just me.
We had talked a little bit about planning out a set and not really doing it until the moment, knowing your audience and knowing what place to put a song in a set. And you had first set song, second set, third set. I love that concept of how you put that together. And like what you said before, I think the fans really appreciate that concept of putting together a show. How about when you put the album together? How about the sequencing of the songs? Like for example, like Heart of Stone is, I don't have the sequencing. I think I have it in the lyrics here, but is Heart of Stone the first song on the album?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I love that song. So it's, so here you have the single in the world of singles, that the second song is the single, and
Yeah.
gives me hope that you're going to go back to that first song because I love it. I love the first
Yeah.
song.
Yeah,
We've done our job.
that Willie was really adamant about that being the first. I have weird, I don't know what to call them, weird things about, like, I want this song to be number 6 and this one has to be 8. And so I just felt strongly about some of them, but Willie was really adamant about Heart of Stone staying. And we even had like our PR agent.
Our PR, our PR people were like, we need to resequence the album with these tracks and this, and they wanted to bump it.
We did. They wanted Even When to be first, I think, but she was really gentle about it anyway. She was kind of like, it's not a big deal if you can't. But so we compromised with Even When being second. And now I'm forgetting the sequencing of things, but then I think Die Right Here is third and then Caught. But it is important. We're weird with numbers.
But there's also things with sequencing, like to me, when I heard all the songs, like Heart of Stone's just the one that's going to grab you right out the front. You want to, definitely get them in. But there are things, like you want to try to not have 2 songs in the same key if you can help it. You want to, I just had a 2-beat song. I need something, you try to trick the ear every time to keep it sounding fresh. I've heard a lot of bad sequencing on albums where it's like, one song will end, then another song will come on, sounds just like that song. So it winds up sounding like one, 6-minute song, it's like, it's very tricky. But with this one was the toughest one. Normally when we make a record, it's
really obvious.
The sequencing, it's like, it just kind of flows, it's like, it's just obvious to me that it goes this way.
Yeah. We had to listen to it in this sequencing like 30 times before I would send it to our publicist and for her approval, because I was like, make sure it sounds good, make sure it all sounds good together. I was more in a panic about it. Willie's like, as long as Heart of Stone is first, and we have a little Drunk on the Porch recording of Ode to the Animals last, everything else can kind of fall into place.
We knew the bookends. We knew Heart of Stone was first.
Show. We knew the
Ode to the End, just like the live show. But it was this one was the most difficult one I think I've ever. Well, I mean, we really went back and forth over the sequencing, but it does matter for people who still like to listen to. That's why it's called an album. Because it's bookends. That people want to listen to it, because even if the songs aren't telling a story, the brain starts to put a story together around these songs. No matter what you think is happening. And it's also not just the lyrical content that's telling a story, but the melody of the songs is also creating a story to your brain. So the sequencing does matter. But a lot of younger youth today, they don't care. It's like, that's
because it's all going to be on Spotify Shuffle anyway.
It's going to be on Spotify Shuffle anyway. So, but you still want to sequence it for those people that still like to listen to an album.
I think we both came across as very get off my lawn on that one. Sorry, kids.
You young whippersnappers. But the music industry is weird now because it's like the 50s again. You can just make a single and release it.
And that's really cool. Yeah. And I think also it's funny. I do teach some vocal lessons, and I have a lot of young students, and I'm always amazed when they tell me stories about what they listen to, because I come across the same way. I can, get off the lawn type of thing. I've always sworn that I was never going to do that, never let myself get there. And I find myself getting further and further away from today's radio music, as it were.
It's hard not to.
And so it's always
the
rewarding.
Quality of today's doesn't make it easy.
Right.
Right. She's right. The quality, and now, man, there's a lot of shortcuts. At our level, we love it because most of the music is still pure and true, and people can still actually sing. Nowadays, man, we're like the pop culture. It's like, oh, you look fantastic. You can't sing. That's okay. I can fix that. Beep, bop, boop. Now you're in tune. You don't have to rely on straight talent. And a lot of that's not fair. But also we're artists. Most of that stuff in pop culture, what is it I'm looking for? They are, they're acts is what the term I'm looking for. They're acts. They're told what to wear, what to sing, who to marry, who to be seen with. Every article of clothing you're wearing, they're acts. They act like they can sing. They act like they're this, most of those people don't write their own stuff. They're not artists, but at our level, we're still fortunate enough to have people that are artists. And in the studio, there's still a little vocal tweaking, fixing your vocals when they're not perfect. But sometimes we're like, no, leave it flawed. It's like, I know that I don't have a voice as pretty as hers, but I don't want you trying to make it sound like I do. Like we talked about earlier, the flaw in the art is sometimes the most beautiful thing about the art.
Absolutely. And so many times too, when things become overproduced and also things become I think it's always important that an artist can take their music that they recorded and do the same thing, take that on the road without, because there isn't an auto-tune button on the stage, behind the amp, they should be able to, and I don't mean to say should, but you would hope that they would be able to recreate their talent on that stage in an acoustic setting or in a small band setting but if it's all produced and all auto-tuned, then it's not the same.
That's what I love when I was talking earlier about how we write the songs on acoustic, then go work out arrangements for a full band, then come back and rework out arrangements for acoustic. One of the things that we love is that, we believe is like, man, your ear's been trained to hear it with the full band. If you're a fan of the record, it's like, it's important for us. You can still hear the integrity of that song with just us singing it, 2 guitars. You can, it's like, we're not, even though it's stripped way down, I still think we represent the song beautifully with just 2 guitars and 2 vocals.
Right.
And you got to have some level of talent to be able to do that, right?
I don't know.
For
Still
sure.
trying to figure that part out.
Let's define talent.
No.
I noticed that a lot of songs were, we mentioned that they were written in 2020, during this time when we've all been kind of in a downward trend, just kind of having to wait for things to clear up again. And you talk about the frustration of being off the road a little bit in the song that Kira wrote, Road Worn. You have to be anxious to be getting back into this whole mode of being on the stage again more. I know you have some February dates lined up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we just had, we were actually back on it really close to full time last year, starting in March of last year. And we made it to about November when I had to have vocal cord surgery and we had to take 3 months off. So that was a little bit of a devastating blow, but we planned well for it. And this past
Saturday
weekend was our
comeback show.
Our big comeback show. So we had a blast and it reminded us why we love doing what we do so much. And we had spent so long working on the business end of things that we were losing sight of that a little bit. And this past show reminded us very quickly that we're artists and we're not just businessmen and businesswomen, and it reminded us really quickly. So we are thrilled to be going back at it. We have some private parties this week, and then next week we're going to Alabama and somewhere else.
We got a little 3-day run.
Valdosta,
South Georgia, and a couple of days in Alabama.
And then in March we start back at it. We have like a 3-week run out to New Mexico and back, and we're gonna try to, because of my vocal cord surgery, we made a promise to each other that we would try to take a weekend off here and there. We're both workaholics, so that's really hard for us to do. So we're working on that, and we're gonna be touring as much as we possibly can outside of a week off every 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, and at our comeback, shows that we hadn't played in 3 months, we've just been doing album prep and making sure the singles were getting released. That it's that whole, I don't get nervous before we play ever, but I was like, I don't know if I remember how to do this.
I was so nervous.
I was like, I don't remember, because I can, we could play 5 hours worth of songs. I know so many songs, but it's like, I can't remember one song. I can't remember one joke. I can't remember how to sing this part or play this part. But we walked out there and, we had a great reception back. So many people came out to welcome us back, but walked right out there, and it's like, it all just came flooding back. And
now the leaf blowers
are here.
So if you hear that, we apologize.
Can you hear that? The leaf blowers?
Very faint in the background. Very faint.
Okay, good.
So we're good.
I'll move on quickly.
I noticed that a lot of the shows, like you mentioned, are in the South. And I held out some hope when I heard that you said something about a Philadelphia show in the past, that when you were touring Philadelphia. I'm in Chicago. So I was holding out hope that maybe you guys would swing through.
Yeah.
Yeah, we play in Chicago at a spot called
the Montrose Saloon.
Montrose Saloon.
Okay.
Anytime that we're out there. I've also been trying to get us into another spot out there as well. So it didn't happen when we come up that way. This time, I think we are staying below in Indianapolis and Kentucky and
Cincinnati area.
Indiana. Yeah. And so it won't happen this time, but I do have Chicago plans for later in the year.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So it'll definitely be happening.
We'll make sure you know.
Yes.
Absolutely. I would love to see, meet you and see you perform live. And this has been a treat today to hear you perform in the
Thank you.
studio, but see the live show. I'm so excited to you explain how fun the live show is. I want to experience that. So
Cool.
Hopefully you feel like it's fun. It's not
Yeah.
just all talk.
Oh no, I can't wait. I can't wait. You've been so generous with your time today. I was wondering if you might have time to perform one more song today before we wrap things up.
Absolutely.
You got it. Should I explain the song or just play
We're
it?
gonna do you explain it.
This is a song. We're the Waymores, and this is a song about honky tonk bad habits called I Don't Like the Liquor. I don't like the whiskey, but the whiskey likes me. He's always coming round, tugging on my sleeve, singing, "Wee daddy, take a drink of me."
I don't like tequila, but tequila likes me. It's always coming round, tugging on my sleeve, singing, "Hey, mama, take a drink of me."
If I had just a nickel for every drink I ever drunk, I couldn't pack all that money into an old railroad trunk.
I don't like the cocaine, but the cocaine likes me. It's always coming round, tugging on my sleeve, singing, "Ooh, mama, take a sniff of me."
You know I love the reefer and the reefer loves me. We always get along and he never does me wrong, singing, "Wee daddy, take a puff of me." If I had just a nickel for every drink I ever drunk, I couldn't pack all that money into an old railroad trunk. I don't like the liquor, but the liquor likes me. He's always coming round, tugging on my sleeve, singing, "Wee daddy, take a drink of me." Singing, "Wee mama, take a drink of me."
So it came out really nice, and I love that song. I felt so fortunate to get to hear the songs, a little bit before I got to talk to you, so I can it's kind of like preparing for a tour, preparing for
Yeah.
to see your favorite artist on tour or something. They have to listen
Yeah.
to the new record and know what they're going to be performing, and so I got to hear these
Right,
songs.
right.
Thank goodness to your publicist and whatnot to get to hear them and kind of look forward to hearing them in the today. So wonderful. Thank you for that.
so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess I'll point this last question towards Kira because you're doing the social media. What's the best? What are with all the social media platforms? What are the best ways for your fans and people who are hearing this today to find you and to learn the most about your songs?
So I try to stay heavy on all platforms, but Instagram is probably our biggest one, Instagram and Facebook. And on our Instagram, we have a Linktree account on our little bio that'll take you to anywhere that you need to learn anything about us, from tour dates to press to Spotify to Apple Music. It's all there in our Linktree. And I would say Instagram, and that's just at the Waymores. And you'll see our cute little mugs right there in the picture.
Fantastic. And then you have a website too, which is
We do. It's thewaymores.com.
Fantastic.
And then we have we even have a TikTok that's also at the Waymores. It's ridiculous. And Twitter. And I think the only one that's not just simply at the Waymores is our Twitter account. It's at T Waymores. because somebody had already taken the Waymores. But it's all there. You know, if any of our Linktree links will take you to any social media account.
Well, I'm sure after people watch in this interview, learn more about you, you're gonna have some new fans, hopefully that you know will want to check out all that you're doing. So
Cool,
Fingers
thank you.
crossed. Thank
Fingers
you
crossed.
so much.
thank you so much for your time today. Make sure that we get people out to hear Stone Sessions on April 8th, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.